On behalf of the Australian Education Time, we would like to introduce Miss Deborah Abela. You probably know her as the author of your kids' favorite library books. She is the brain behind the Max Remy Super Spice series as well as many others. She's had an impressive output of 20 books in 10 years, won so many literacy awards we've lost count, and publishes her work in over 8 countries worldwide. This year, she added the 2013 Maurice Saxby Award to her achievements, an award given to an individual that has displayed excellence and passion in promoting reading and writing for young people in New South Wales. Miss Abela, thank you for joining us here today. We're big fans of your books, and we're looking forward to learning about how you work.
It's very nice to be here.
As a 2013 recipient of the Maurice Saxby Award, you have significantly contributed to inspiring kids to read and write. Why is reading so important for children?
Oh, it's the basis of everything, and I work a lot in schools and especially in primary schools, because if we don't manage to get kids to love books in primary school, then everything else becomes really hard afterwards. So even if you want to be a great soccer star or an astronaut or a plumber or a painter, you need to be able to read. And so if we can get kids loving their books in primary school, then it's perfect. But also reading is so much fun, and there's so many great stories that, even if you pick up a book and you don't really like that book, it's okay to put it down and pick up another one. So I think everybody loves stories.
Same stuff. How can parents and teachers encourage children to read?
I think one of the big things is if they read themselves. I think that is a really, really good way to show kids that this is fun. It's so much fun. This is what I want to do at night or on the weekend, or when you have like 10 minutes and you just want to stop and sit on the lounge and read your book. So I think that's the biggest thing. Also to have books around the house, but also to encourage kids to either use their school libraries and also their public libraries. And, because you can't afford all the books that you want to read. So that's what your library is there for. Yeah. And the public library system is fantastic. And your school library system, you have your beautiful librarian there to ask, what can I read next? So yeah. I think they're probably the main things that parents can do to encourage kids to read.
Yeah, thank you. We understand that you are a school teacher as well. Between being an author and a teacher, which one do you like the most?
That's funny. They're both very different, but they actually work together very well, because I write for kids, but it's been a long time since I was a kid. It's nice actually being in a classroom and talking to kids and seeing what they're passionate about and what they like and what they don't like. And so, and also I work in a library at the moment, and so I see what kids are picking up, which books they like, which books they don't really like, and then I'll ask them, why did you like that and why didn't you like that? Teaching for me is a real privilege, because I love trying to show kids how important it is to read, but also how much fun it is to read, and how your life will be so much better if you have this love of reading.
Yeah.
So they're both equally nice. I like them both.
How do you find ideas that draw in and engage students?
What I try to do is think of characters that I like, or that I want to be with and that I'm interested in. And then I also hope then that I'll write about subjects that I am passionate about. And then I think if you're passionate about something, that translates. So when someone picks up a book that you've written and you're very excited by, hopefully they'll be excited by as well. So I always write about things that I love. And that would be one of my biggest writing tips as well. If anyone wanted to write their own story, write about something you completely are very excited about, and then hopefully your readers will be as well.
Your first job was writing for Channel 10's Cheese TV. What was that like?
Oh, it was fantastic. So my very first job, yes, was working for Channel 10 on a kids show. It was a morning show from 7 to 8:30, and it had cartoons on it. So I love cartoons. So part of my job was to watch cartoons, like someone paid me, which was very exciting. And the other thing was to practice writing for kids. So it was the way that I did practice for my very first novel, just writing for kids every day, 6 days a week. The show went to air, and we got to do really exciting things. We got to meet astronauts and ask them all sorts of questions, like training to be an astronaut and living in outer space. We got to meet people who trained rescue dogs in the snow. If you have those rescue dogs, rescue people in avalanches. We got to go to the zoo. We went to New York once and went to the tallest toy store in the world, which was just this huge building full of toys. So we got to meet, authors and illustrators, of course, and singers and musicians. So we got to meet really interesting people who did really incredibly interesting things with their day. So I loved it. It was very, very exciting, but good training to then write my own novels and write for kids in a bigger form, being whole novel.
We know that travel and your Nana story has inspired books in the past. In what other ways do you come up with ideas for your stories?
It depends. It's always something that sparks. So either it's something that I'm interested in, or it's something that makes me upset. So, for example, I wrote a book called Grimston, and it's about a bunch of kids who live in a flooded city. Yeah. And I wrote that book because I got really cranky. It's my cranky novel, that's what I call it, because I didn't think governments around the world were taking enough care of the planet. And I kept thinking, if we don't take enough care of the planet, things will go a bit wrong, and the planet will start to suffer without our help. So I thought, all right, I want to write a book about something that kind of goes wrong because we don't pay enough attention. And it was so, I got so cranky about it that's what I did. So I flooded a whole city and I added sea monsters and flying machines and girls who are good with swords.
And a flying ship.
Yes, yeah, that's right. So, yeah. So the spark comes from really all around. It could be something that makes you upset, something that makes you excited, something you might overhear somebody talk about, or an interesting story that you read online, and then that sparks you to do more research, and then it might lead to a whole book. So,
What books were important to you when you were growing up?
Oh, I love Dr. Seuss. Everything that Dr. Seuss wrote. But there's also, I loved reading the Atlas. So I would just literally flick through the atlas, and every time I would, of course, I'd discover a brand new country and think, wow, where's that country and who lives there? And so I always would read the atlas. And there was a book that I loved when I was little called Professor Brainstorm by a man called Norman Hunter. You may not know it, it's very old now. And it's about this wacky professor who builds these incredible inventions, but they always go wrong. They always blow up or explode or take his house away down the street on wheels. It was just very silly, but I really liked it.
You've written books about spies, ghosts, soccer legends, sword fighters. How much research do you typically do for one book?
That's a good question. I actually do research for my books. For example, with Grimston, I had a Leonardo da Vinci inspired flying machine. So I needed, of course, to look at Leonardo da Vinci's plans and look at how flying machines work, so that in my book I could make mine feel real, like it really could exist. And at the moment I'm writing a book based on World War II, so it's going to be an historical fiction, and it's kind of based on my father's story, because my father was born in Malta during a really, really heavy bombing raid in World War II in 1942, and he was born in a cave because that was the safest place to be while the bombs were falling, and so I've always been fascinated with that story. So at the moment I'm doing loads and loads of research on World War II and the types of planes they flew and what people had to eat and all that kind of stuff, so it's really fascinating, and I've spent a lot of time on that research.
What books would you recommend for young readers?
Oh gosh, anything that excites them and inspires them, because people are all different. So what book, someone might love, another kid would say, oh, I don't really get it. So the biggest thing I would say is just experiment. Pick up a book you may not think is for you, because the cover just might not be for you, but you might open it and think, okay, fantastic. And then tell all your friends, because that's the way you can know what good books are out there. My friends are constantly saying, oh, have you read this book? You've got to try it. And I think, yeah, I'll give it a shot.
What advice would you give to young authors?
Read lots, practice lots, write about what you love. Big 3 tips, I reckon. And then after that, just have fun.
Thank you, Miss Abela, for taking the time out of your busy schedule to talk to us today.
You are very welcome.
We are sure everyone watching this video are just inspired as we are after hearing of our experiences.